Welcome back to the Bad Influence podcast, where we fearlessly tackle the tough questions that others might shy away from. Today, we're delving into something deeply personal yet incredibly common: being your own biggest bully. We've all been there, right? That persistent voice in your head that tells you you're not good enough, that you'll never succeed, or that you don't deserve happiness. But here's the real fucking question: how come we're so adept at beating ourselves up? If you've ever felt like your worst enemy is staring back at you in the mirror, rest assured, you're not alone. This episode is for you and for all of us who have grappled with this internal struggle. So, imagine what your life could look like if that inner critic didn't hold so much power over you. If you could replace self doubt with self compassion and stop sabotaging your own success. Stick with me because what we're about to discuss could be the first step towards a more positive, empowered version of yourself. The potential for change is real and it's within your reach. Let's get real about something. Most of us are far harsher on ourselves than we would ever be on someone else. We criticize our bodies, our abilities, our achievements, and even our fucking worth. The problem is that this self bullying can become so ingrained that we don't even realize we're doing it. It's like having a bully who lives inside your head. And the more you listen to it, the more powerful it becomes. It's not easy to break free from this cycle, and it's okay to struggle with it. We are not born knowing this. We learn this from the adults in our lives. This fucking self bullying manifests in countless ways. Maybe you downplay your successes, brush off compliments, or constantly compare yourself to others. I know I've done that my entire life. Perhaps you avoid taking risks because you're convinced you'll fail. Or you engage in negative self talk that chips away at your confidence. You might find yourself saying things like, I'm not smart enough for this job, or I'll never be as successful as my brother, as my dad, as my uncle, as my neighbor, as my coworker, as anybody else. Right? And over time, this external negativity can lead to anxiety, depression, and a sense of hopelessness. It's like building a prison for yourself, one critical thought at a time. And one of the things that I have been observing is that more and more people are falling into this trap. They are their biggest bully. The real tragedy is that this self sabotage keeps you from reaching your full potential. It fucking holds you back from pursuing your dreams, building healthy relationships, and living a life that truly reflects your worth. But here's the thing: it doesn't have to be this way. You have the power to silence your inner bully and replace it with a voice of encouragement and self love. One that tells you, yes, you fail. Yes, you're knocked down. But get back up, learn from the mistake, and keep going. For years, I was my own worst critic. I remember one particular time when I had just started my first job. I was excited but also incredibly nervous. I wanted to prove myself, but no matter how hard I worked, I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't good enough. Every time I made a mistake, even a small one, I'd mentally beat myself up for days. I remember one instance where I was so consumed by self-criticism that I couldn't even enjoy a well-deserved promotion later in life. It was a wake-up call for me and a moment I'll never forget. There was one project where I made a minor error. something that was easily fixed. But in my mind, it was fucking catastrophic. I told myself I wasn't cut out for the job, that I was a fraud, and that it was only a matter of time before everyone else figured it out too. I was putting myself down so much that I became so consumed by this self-criticism that it affected my performance, my relationships, and my mental health. I was anxious all the fucking time, second guessing every decision I made, including, having friends, buying a car, everything. I second guess everything. It wasn't until a mentor pulled me aside and asked me, why are you being so hard on yourself? That I realized what was happening. I was so focused on not failing that I was sabotaging my own success. My mentor helped me see that everyone makes mistakes. That's part of being human. Every single person makes mistakes. What matters is how you respond to them. So I began to work on changing that inner dialogue, replacing the negative self-talk with more constructive, compassionate thoughts. And over time, I noticed a shift. I started to feel more confident, more capable, and more resilient. The more I silenced that inner bully, the more I was able to achieve. Not just in my career, but in every area of my life. And that's why I'm so passionate about what I do, because I know firsthand how damaging self-bullying can be and how transformative it is when you finally break free from it. It's literally like releasing this chain that weighs a ton. You literally cut the chain and you're free, and you're like, oh my gosh, I feel so much fucking better. So, why do we become our own biggest bullies in the first place? There are a few key reasons. For one, many of us have been conditioned to believe that self-criticism is a way to motivate ourselves. We think we'll push ourselves to do better by being hard on ourselves, but that rarely works after a long time if you keep doing that. But the truth is, this approach often backfires. Instead of motivating us, it drains our energy, erodes our confidence, and leaves us feeling stuck. Another reason is that we tend to internalize negative messages we've received from others, whether it's from parents, teachers, peers, or even societal expectations. These messages can become deeply ingrained, leading us to adopt a self-critical mindset that's hard to shake. And over time, we start to believe that we're not good enough, that we're not deserving of success or happiness, and that we need to constantly prove our worth. I've been there. I know how it feels. And it's also important to recognize the role of perfectionism in self-bullying. Perfectionists often set impossible high standards for themselves and then berate themselves when they inevitably fall short. I've done that multiple times throughout my life. I was a fucking perfectionist, and I always berated myself. This constant striving for perfection can lead to a cycle of self-sabotage, where you're never satisfied with your achievements because they're never good enough. You could have an A on your exam. You could have passed, right? You look at your A and your test and you're like, I could have gotten an A plus. So you start to put yourself down. The fucking irony is that perfectionism often prevents you from taking the very risk and actions that will lead to growth and success. Understanding these underlying factors is the first step towards breaking free from self-bullying. It's about recognizing that this inner critic isn't a true reflection of your worth. It's a learned behavior that can be unlearned, which is very important to understand. Just as you learn that, you can unlearn it. And the more you challenge this negative self-talk, the weaker it becomes. So, how do you go about doing that? Let's get into some practical strategies. We'll start by identifying your negative self-talk patterns, then we'll work on reframing those thoughts. And finally, we'll practice self-compassion and self-acceptance. These are the same steps that I took, that my wife has taken, and it works. You might be thinking, how do I stop being my own bully when it feels like second nature? That's a good question. But the good news is that it's entirely possible to change the way you talk to yourself. It just takes practice and a lot of fucking patience, because it's going to take a long time. The first strategy is to start by challenging the negative thoughts as soon as they arise. When you catch yourself thinking something critical, like I'm not good enough, ask yourself, is this true? What evidence do I have to support this? Often, you'll find that these thoughts are based on assumptions or fears, not facts. There's nothing to support those thoughts. So, if there's nothing to support those thoughts, why do you believe in them, right? Why do you believe them to be true when they're not? Another powerful technique is to reframe your thoughts. Instead of saying, I can't do this, try saying, this is challenging, but I'm fucking learning and growing through it. Instead of thinking, I always mess up, reframe it as, everyone makes mistakes, and that's how I learn. This shift in language can make a huge difference in how you perceive yourself and your abilities. It's also helpful to practice self-compassion. This means treating yourself with the same kindness and understanding that you will offer a friend who's going through a tough time or who's facing a challenge. When you make a mistake or face a setback, instead of beating yourself up, try saying something like, it's okay to make mistakes. I'm doing my best, and that's enough. Because when you're doing your best, when you're giving 100%, 110%, and you still mess up, there's nothing else that you can do but learn. Even if you give it 130, 200%, you're still gonna mess up. So self-compassion isn't about letting yourself off the hook. It's about acknowledging your humanity and giving yourself the grace to grow and improve. Surround yourself with positivity. The people you spend time with, the content you consume, and the environments you're in all influence your mindset. Seek out supportive relationships, inspiring content, and environments that uplift you. The more positivity you surround yourself with, the easier it will be to cultivate a positive, encouraging inner dialogue. Sometimes you're going to have to cut people out of your life in order for you to achieve that. And that's totally fine. Here are the steps you can take right now to silence your inner bully. And you can start today. First, keep a journal of your thoughts. Write down the negative self-talk as it happens, and then challenge and reframe those thoughts. Over time, you'll start to see patterns in your thinking, and you'll become more skilled at catching and correcting negative thoughts before they take hold. Before you start to believe them, you have to actually stop them. Right? That's how psychology works. Neuroplasticity works that way, and even neurolinguistics. Second, practice daily affirmations. Positive affirmations are a powerful tool for reshaping your mindset. Choose a few affirmations that resonate with you, such as I am worthy, I am capable, or I deserve happiness. And all you have to do is start with one. You can just pick one, whatever it is, and repeat these affirmations to yourself every morning and whenever you catch yourself falling into negative self-talk. So just pick one and do that. This practice can help reinforce positive self-talk. I know that because it helped me. Third, set realistic expectations for yourself. One of the main reasons we bully ourselves is that we set standards that are impossible to meet. So by setting realistic, achievable goals, you give yourself the opportunity to succeed and build confidence, which is extremely important. Another thing that helps a lot is to celebrate your progress. No matter how small, you took one step and you make progress, celebrate it. Because when you recognize that growth, you'll understand that growth is a journey, not a destination. That's something that I have learned. Also, seek support when you need it, whether it's talking to a trusted friend, working with a therapist, or joining a support group. Don't be afraid to reach out for help. There's nothing that says seeking help is a weakness, because sometimes breaking free from self-bullying requires an outside perspective and a little extra guidance, especially when you have done it since you were a kid. You don't know how to change, so sometimes you just need that little guidance. I know I did, and there's no shame in asking for help. In fact, it's a sign of strength and self-awareness. I believe in your ability to break free from self-bullying and cultivate a more positive, empowering mindset. It's not about being perfect. It's about being kind to yourself, embracing your imperfections, and recognizing your worth. You have so much potential, and the only thing standing in your way is that inner critic. But here's the good news. You, and only you, have the power to silence it. Remember, you are not defined by your mistakes or your insecurities. You are defined by how you rise above them, how you learn, and how you grow, how you treat yourself in the process. That's what matters. By replacing self-bullying with self-compassion, you'll not only feel better about yourself, you'll also unlock new levels of confidence, resilience, and success. You're going to look at yourself in the future, 5 months from now, 5 weeks from now, 5 years from now. Look back at where you started and be like, damn, I have fallen. I have literally scraped my knees. I have hurt myself, my ego, whatever, but I have built confidence, resilience, and now I have the success that I need. And listen, I'm not that different than you. Everyone goes through this. If I can do it, if someone that literally had to learn a brand new language in order for me to be able to change my life, change my mindset, so can you. I'm not smarter than anyone else. I'm just a fucking learner. And I became a learner by silencing my inner critic. By silencing that voice that was telling me you're not good enough, you'll never learn something new. I challenged that. I silenced it. And look at me now. I look at myself when I started podcasting 4 years ago, where I was stuttering every time I was in front of the camera, when I would go on tangents, random tangents. And I look at myself now and I'm like, damn, I did it. And that's resilience. But that wouldn't have happened if I hadn't silenced my inner critic. So again, if I can do it, so can you. And if you believe you can't do it, ask yourself the question, how come I have this feeling that I cannot do this? And figure out the answer. Figure out what the wall is that you have to break through, and then do it. Do it, because that's how you change your life. By figuring out yourself. Figure out what you need to learn about yourself in order for you to be able to silence that inner critic, that inner bully. And when you stop being your inner bully, you're going to see something unexpected. You'll stop bullying others. You'll stop projecting that inner voice onto others. And your relationships will flourish. You'll be able to become more approachable. You'll be able to approach others. And that's how you build a team that you might need to reach the success that you want. And that's it for today. Thank you for joining me today on the Bad Influence Podcast. If this episode resonated with you, share it with someone who might need a little encouragement to be kinder to themselves. Together, we can create a world where self-love and self-compassion are the norm, not the exception. So, stay positive, stay kind, and keep pushing forward. Until next time, have a great day.